This is Hollywood's biggest night.
The ballroom is stunning, wouldn't you agree? It's truly exclusive. Refresh this. Of course.
You. Bring us another bottle.
I don't work here.
You are coming with us.
Tomorrow, remember every word you said tonight. Wait.
The first time Darius called me the help, he was standing beneath a chandelier that cost more than the house my mother raised me in. The ballroom of the Sterling Crown Hotel, glittered like Hollywood had decided to put every lie it ever told beneath one roof. Crystal glasses, diamond necklaces, tailored tuxedos, famous faces smiling for cameras they secretly hated. Outside, Brack Civives lined Sunset Boulevard while fan crowded behind velvet ropes. Farmanda Catfurwa and the stars stepping in the most exclusive film industry gala of the year. Inside, nobody looked twice at me. That was exactly how I wanted it. My name is Nia Carter. I was 41 years old, a black woman born in a 2-bedroom apartment in South Los Angeles. And according to the people in that ballroom, I was nobody important. I wore a simple black dress, with no designer label stitched across the front. My natural hair was pulled into a low bun. I had no entourage, no bodyguard standing at my shoulder, and no diamonds around my neck. The only jewelry I wore was my mother's old gold bracelet. It had cost $40 at a department store 30 years earlier. But that bracelet meant more to me than every jewel in the room. Nobody there knew that I had arrived in a custom armored sedan. Nobody knew that the quiet woman standing near the service entrance had a personal net worth of $8 billion. Nobody knew that through a private investment company called Carter Meridian Holdings, I owned 62% of Crown Meridian Studios. The same studio hosting the gala. The same studio paying for the champagne. The same studio responsible for half the famous people, pretending not to notice me. I had spent 12 years building my empire in silence. I financed independent films when banks laughed, but at black directors. I purchased theaters in neighborhoods major chains had abandoned. I invested in streaming technology before Hollywood executives understood what it would become. Then, when Crown Meridian Studios nearly collapsed under $800 million of debt, I bought controlling ownership through a series of private companies. The entertainment press called the mysterious investor the Meridian Group. They never knew it was me. That anonymity was intentional. Power behaves differently when it does not know is being watched. And for 6 months, I had been watching. Complaints had reached my office from assistants, costume designers, writers, drivers, production crews, and young actors. They described unpaid overtime, stolen ideas, fake diversity programs, retaliation. Executives using studio money for private parties, luxury vacations, and secret contracts. The worst accusation pointed toward Darius King. Darius was Crown Meridian's most celebrated producer. At 38, he was handsome, polished, and dangerous in the way only a man protected by fame could be dangerous. He had produced $3 billion movies. He had magazine covers framed in his office. He gave speeches about black excellence while paying black assistants less than everyone else. He called young filmmakers family until they asked for credit. Then he destroyed their careers. The board adored him because he made money. The public adored him because he knew exactly when to smile. But I had not come to the Sterling Crown Hotel to applaud him. I had come to see whether the allegations were true before I signed the final authorization for an $800 million studio expansion. Darius was expected to lead it. Hundreds of careers depended on my decision. I wanted to see the man without warning him that the owner was in the room. For the first hour, I moved quietly through the gala. I listened. I watched executives speak cruelly to servers and warmly to cameras. I saw a young production assistant carrying 3 garment bags, while an actress screamed at her for walking too slowly. I saw a veteran lighting technician denied entry to the main ballroom because someone had given his seat to an influencer. Then I saw Darius. He stood near the center of the room, wearing a white dinner jacket and a diamond watch. Beside him was Celeste Monroe, the actress he had recently cast as the lead in Crown Meridian's biggest upcoming film. Celeste was beautiful, famous, and perfectly aware of both facts. She wore a silver gown, covered in crystal, and carried her as if every room had been built for her entrance. Around them stood agents, journalists, investors, and aspiring actors, all laughing too loudly at everything Darius said. I approached because I wanted to hear the conversation. Darius was describing the studio expansion. Crown Meridian about to enter a new era, he announced. Bigger productions, international facilities, and a new leadership structure. One executive raised his glass. To Darius King, the future chairman. Everyone cheered. Darius smiled, as though the position already belonged to him. It did not. There had been no vote. There would never be a vote. Darius then turned and saw me standing nearby. His smile disappeared. He looked at my simple dress, then at the tray of empty glasses on a table beside me. You, he said, pointing. I did not move. He pointed again. Yes, you. Bring us another bottle of champagne. The people around him fell quiet. I looked behind me, pretending he might be addressing someone else. Darius sighed. Why does staff always act confused when you give them one simple instruction? A few people laughed. Celeste covered her smile with one manicured hand. I faced him calmly. I am not a member of the hotel staff. Darius studied me for a moment. Instead of apologizing, he smirked. Then, whose assistant are you? No one's. Publicist? No. Driver? No. His eyes narrowed. Then how did you get in here? The people around him began watching more closely. Not because they cared about me. They sensed entertainment. In Hollywood, humiliation was simply another kind of performance. I was invited, I said. Darius laughed. By whom? The studio. The studio invited you? Yes. He looked around dramatically. Does anyone here know this woman? No one answered. Several people avoided my eyes. One of them was Marcus Vale, Crown Meridian's chief operating officer. Marcus knew exactly who I was. He had attended 3 private financial meetings with my representatives. He'd never met me in person, but he had received my photograph in a confidential ownership file. When our eyes met, all the color drained from his face. He recognized me, but he said nothing. That silence told me more than any audit ever could. Darius stepped closer. You see the problem, he said. Anyone can put on a black dress and walk through an unlocked door. My invitation was checked at the entrance. Then some made a mistake. Celeste tilted her head. Maybe she is one of those independent filmmakers looking for funding. Another wave of laughter moved through the group. Celeste looked at me with false sympathy. Honey, this is not one of those networking mixers where you hand out homemade scripts. These people are busy. I could feel dozens of eyes on me now. Phones were beginning to rise. Someone was recording. I should have been angry. But anger would have given them an excuse to call me aggressive. Tears would have allowed them to call me weak. So I smiled. Do you always treat unfamiliar people this way? Darius leaned closer. In Hollywood, Unfamiliar people usually have a reason for being unfamiliar. Perhaps you have been looking in the wrong places. His smile hardened. Security. Two guards began moving toward us. That was a young black woman carrying a tray, hurried between the guests. Her name tag said Tasha. She could not have been older than 23. When she saw the growing confrontation, she became nervous. Her hand trembled. One champagne glass slid from the tray and shattered near Celeste's silver dress. Only a few drops touched the fabric. Celeste, as if she had been attacked. "What is wrong with you?" "I'm so sorry," Tasha stammered. "Someone bumped my arm." Celeste grabbed her wrist. "This gown costs more than you make in 5 years." Tasha's eyes filled with tears. Darius looked at the broken glass, then looked at me. "You distracted her." "I did not touch her. I saw you step into her path." That was a lie. Everyone knew it was a lie. But nobody challenged him. Darius turned to the guards. "Remove both of them." Tasha looked terrified. "Please, sir, I need this job." Darius barely glanced at her. "Then you should have learned how to carry a tray." Something inside me became very still. I remembered my mother coming home from cleaning hotel rooms. I remembered her hands swollen from chemicals. I remembered how she would sit at our kitchen table, remove her shoes and tell me that no honest job made a person small. And small people treated workers as though they were invisible. I stepped between Tasha and the guards. She apologized. Darius stared at me. "This has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. Move." "No." The ballroom fell silent. Darius was not accustomed to hearing that word, especially from a woman he believed had no power. His face tightened. "You walk into an event where you do not belong, interrupt my guests, cause an accident, and now you want to lecture me. I want you to let go of her job. I decide who works at my events." "No," he said quietly. "You only believe you do." Marcus Vale moved forward. "Nia, perhaps we should speak privately." It was the first time anyone had used my name. Darius turned toward him. "You know her?" Marcus swallowed. "Not personally." Another cowardly answer. Darius looked back at me, now more annoyed than curious. "I not care who she is. Get her out." One guard reached for my arm. I looked directly at him. "I would not do that." Something in my voice stopped him. Darius laughed. "Are you threatening security?" "No. I am protect him from making a career-ending mistake." Celeste rolled her eyes. "She is delusional." Darius stepped so close that I could smell the champagne on his breath. "You have 10 seconds to leave before I have you dragged through the lobby in front of every camera outside." I met his eyes. "Tomorrow morning, remember every word you said tonight." He smiled. "Are you going to write an angry review?" "No." I glanced around the ballroom. At Marcus. At Celeste. At the executives who had laughed. At the employee who had lowered their heads because they had seen this behavior before. "Tomorrow morning, you are all going to learn who paid for this room." Then I turned and walked away. Tasha followed me. Nobody stopped us. Outside, the Los Angeles night felt colder than it had when I arrived. Tasha stood near the curb, wiping tears from her face. "I'm sorry," she said. "You got thrown out because of me." "No," he told her. "I was thrown out because Darius King believed kindness was beneath him." She looked at me, confused. "Are you really an investor?" I took a business card from my purse. It contained only my name and a private number. "Call this office tomorrow." "For what?" "A new job." Her eyes widened. "I don't understand." "You will." My driver opened the rear door. Before he entered, Tasha called after me. "What are you going to do?" I looked back at the glowing hotel where Darius was probably already telling everyone that he had removed a crazy woman from his gala. "I am going to let him discover how expensive disrespect can become." At 6 the next morning, I authorized 3 actions. First, I froze the $800 million expansion fund. Second, I suspended all executive spending accounts associated with Darius King and Marcus Vale. Third, I ordered independent for audit of every production Darius had controlled over the previous 5 years. By 8:05, the phones inside Crown Meridian Studios were ringing nonstop. By 9:00, entertainment reporters were asking why the studio's largest expansion had suddenly been placed on hold. By 9:30, Darius was screaming in the boardroom. I watched him through a secure video connection from my office. "This has to be a technical error," he said. "Call Meridian Group." Marcus sat the end of the table looking ill. "I already did." And they said the principal investor requested an emergency review. Darius slammed his hand against the table. "Who is the principal investor?" Marcus did not answer. Celeste sat near the window, wearing sunglasses indoors. She had posted a video from the gala mocking a random woman who thought confidence was an invitation. The video had already been viewed 7 million times. Most people laughed with her. Some asked who I was. Soon, they would know. At 10, every board member received a formal notice. A mandatory ownership meeting would take place at the studio's main theater that evening. Attendance was compulsory. The announcement stated that the majority shareholder would appear in person. For the rest of the day, speculate about the mysterious owner of Crown Meridian Studios. Some assumed it was a Saudi investment fund. Others guessed a technology billionaire. One financial network claimed the owner was a retired European media family. Nobody mentioned a quiet black woman in a simple dress. At 7 that evening, the studio theater was full. Board members sat in the first rows. Executives, producers, and department leaders filled the seats behind them. Journalists gathered near the back. The meeting was being streamed to every Crown Meridian employee around the world. Darius stood the stage in a navy suit, trying to appear calm. Celeste sat beside him. Marcus kept checking the exits. The lights dimmed. A studio attorney walked to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, was the founder and chief executive officer of Carter Meridian Holdings, majority owner of Crown Meridian Studios." Then I walked onto the stage. For 3 full seconds, nobody made a sound. Darius stared at me as if his mind had rejected the evidence in front of his eyes. Celeste removed her sunglasses. Marcus closed his eyes. A wave of whispers moved through the theater. I wore the same simple black dress. I wanted them to remember it. Darius stood. "This is some kind of joke." I looked at him from the stage. "Sit down." He remained standing. "You cannot be the majority owner." The large screen by May illuminated. Corporate documents aired. Stock records. Acquisition agreements. Voting rights. My photograph. My signature. 62% ownership. The truth filled the entire wall. Darius slowly returned to his seat. I faced the audience. Last night, I attended the Sterling Crown Gala without an entourage because I want to observe the culture of this company without formance or preparation. I paused. What I saw was not leadership. Footage from the ballroom began playing behind me. Darius calling me the help. Celeste mocking independent filmmakers. Tasha dropping the glass. Darius ordering security to remove us. The audience watched in stunned silence. Then the footage changed. Security recordings from studio office appeared. Darius shouting at assistants, threatening a writer, taking credit for a young director's concept, ordering accounting staff to move production funds into consulting companies. Darius jumped up again. That footage is confidential. It belongs to the company, I said, and I own the company. The forensic audit had moved faster than he expected because several employees had already preserved evidence. Emails showed that Darius had redirected more than $23 million through fake vendors. Two of the companies were controlled by his cousin. Another belonged to Celeste's manager. The contracts for the expansion project included inflated construction fees, secret and luxury property purchase, its production expense. Nasser's Marcus Vale had approved them. Celeste had received $2 million through a company that claimed to provide cultural consulting. She had never performed a single day of consulting. The room erupted. Reporters began typing. Cameras flashed. Darius looked toward Marcus. Marcus looked toward Celeste. Within seconds, the alliance between them began to crack. This was Marcus' structure, Darius said. He handled the financial side. Marcus shot to his feet. You proved every transfer. Celeste turned toward Darius. You said the contracts were legal. He stared at her. Do not speak. She recoiled. For the first time, the charming public image appeared. Everyone saw the man employee had been describing for years. I raised one hand and the room quieted. Effective immediately, Darius King is terminated from Crown Meridian Studios. He laughed nervously. You cannot terminate me in the middle of a production. I just did. You will destroy the film. The film will survive without you. You need my relationships. No, you needed my money. His face changed. The words hit harder than shouting ever could. I continued. Marcus Vale is also terminated. Both men are prohibited from entering studio property. All evidence of financial mismanagement has been transferred to federal investigators. Two agents stepped in the theater. Marcus collapsed into his chair. Darius looked around, waiting for someone to defend him. Nobody moved. The people who had laughed beside him the night before would not even meet his eyes. Celeste tried to stand quietly. Ms. Monroe remained seated. She froze. Your acting cost is suspended pending an investigation in fraudulent payments and workplace misconduct. Her voice trembled. I did not know who you were. The entire theater became silent again. That sentence contained everything wrong with her apology. I stepped closer to the edge of the stage. You should not have needed to know who I was. Celeste's eyes filled with tears. I made a mistake. No, you revealed a habit. She looked down. Darius was escorted toward the aisle. As he passed the stage, he stopped. You planned this? No, I said. You planned it every time you believed the person beneath you could never reach the room above you. His jaw tightened. You think humiliating me makes you better? I am not humiliating you. I am removing the protection that allowed you to humiliate everyone else. The agents took him away. But the meeting was not over. I displayed names of 14 writers, assistants, and independent filmmakers whose work had been stolen or suppressed. Their contracts would be restored. Their credits would be corrected. Back pay, damages, and royalties would be issued. Then I announced a $200 million fund for Black filmmakers, costume designers, editors, technicians, and storytellers who had been locked out of Hollywood by people about diversity while practicing exclusion. Finally, I invited Tasha on the stage. She walked out wearing a simple blue suit, looking terrified but determined. Darius assumed she was only a server. He asked that she was studying film production at night. He had never learned that she had written and directed 2 award-winning student films. He had only seen the tray in her hands. Tasha Brooks will begin a paid fellowship in Crown Meridian's production division, he announced. She will also assist the independent review committee, responsible for rebuilding our workplace culture. The audience stood. Not everyone applauded because they believed in change. Some applauded because they were afraid not to. That was fine. Fear could open the door. Character determined what happened after someone swore what. Wit. Over the next 6 months, Crown Meridian Studios change. Not perfectly. Real change never arrives as cleanly as a speech. Some executives resigned. Others were removed. Several managers suddenly discovered kindness after realizing the company was paying attention. I did not trust instant kindness, but I trusted systems, records, and consequences. Tasha became one of the strongest fellows in the program. A year later, she directed a short film about hotel workers in Los Angeles. It won an award at 3 film festivals. The veteran lighting technician who had lost his seat at the Gala was promoted to department supervisor. The writer whose concept Darius had stolen received full credit and a 7-figure settlement. Marcus accepted a plea agreement. Celeste's career did not end, but it changed. For the first time, she had to audition without Darius, forcing directors to hire her. She issued a public apology. I never responded. Darius fought every charge. He blamed the accountants, his assistants, Marcus, Celeste, and eventually the entire studio. What was never blamed was the man in the mirror. 2 years later, I attended another gala at the Sterling Crown Hotel. This time, my name was printed on the entrance. Reporters shouted questions as I walked along the carpet. Designers offered me gowns. Jewelry companies offered me diamonds. I wore a simple black dress and my mother's $40 bracelet. Inside the ballroom, I saw servers moving between the tables. Executives thanked them by name. Not because Hollywood had suddenly become good. Because everyone remembered what happened the last time somebody confused service with weakness. A young producer approached me near the same chandelier where Darius had first called me the help. He looked nervous. Carter, may I ask you something? Of course. How to stay calm that night? I looked across the ballroom. For years people had mistaken my silence for fear. They never understood that silence can be strategy. Calm be armor. And patience can be the space where just sharpens its blade. I stayed calm, I told him, because people who underestimate you will often hand you the evidence you need. He nodded slowly. That he asked the question I had heard more than any other since that night. Did you know from the beginning that you were going to destroy Darius King? I looked up at the chandelier. No. The producer seemed surprised. I came to decide whether he deserved more power. And what did he prove? I smiled. That some people do not lose everything because their enemies are powerful. I glanced around the room where workers, filmmakers, and executives now stood beneath the same lights. They lose everything because they finally mistreat the one person who can make them answer for it. Darius believed my simple dress meant I had no money. Celeste believed my silence meant I had no confidence. Marcus believed my distance meant I would never discover the truth. They were all wrong. I did not need to shout my name. I did not need diamonds to prove my worth. And I did not need revenge to invent their downfall. I only needed to step aside and let their own character speak loudly enough for the entire world to hear. Because in Hollywood, everyone is always acting. But sooner or later, the camera capture who you really are.